Final Fantasy XIV is dying, and it's been a game that's been around for a long time. It's been very, very highly regarded as an MMO through this entire thing. But what is to blame for this? Grummz thinks it might be because of wokies going out there and just shaming people who just want to play normal things. But we'll get into what's happening here in just a moment. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan from way back. I didn't get in on Final Fantasy XIV because I'm scared of open-ended MMOs at this point. I played World of Warcraft back in the day, and it wrecked my life. So I like games that end. So I try to play the games that are offline. I'm loving Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now. So good. And I am somebody who is here for you guys, so please hit the like and subscribe button as we talk about all things in gaming. And please also sign up for my newsletter. I am a writer, and a lot of my work is inspired by Final Fantasy and some of the stories in there. You'll like it if you enjoy those classic stories. So check it out. It's in the description below. You get 3 free books for doing so, a fantasy book, a sci-fi book, and a superhero graphic novel. And thank you for signing up all, and of course, making our newsletter over 7,000 strong. Really appreciate you guys for being there. And make sure to reply if you're on there when I send one out, because I love to connect with you guys too. It's awesome stuff. So Final Fantasy XIV is reportedly threatening to drop below 1 million active players. This is a crisis mode for Final Fantasy XVII. It's seen a large drop in players between the release of Dawn Trail and patch 7.0. Lucky Bancho has claimed that over 1.4 million players were active during the release of Dawn Trail, though the numbers currently sit at 1.03 million. As far as like what percentage of a drop that is, that's pretty huge, guys. If you're looking at 1.03 over 1.4, that is a 27% drop. Holy crap. That's a large portion of the player base who's saying we are out at this juncture. Not a good thing. On that current trajectory, Final Fantasy XIV will likely fall below 1 million active players, with very little content getting more casual players to stick around. So it's in an odd spot at the moment. A lot of people are still kind of disappointed with the story after patch 7.1's attempts to try to spice things up a bit, and a lot of complaints right now are generally being leveled at the lack of things to do. New content like World of Darkness Chaotic Raid, Echoes of Vandale Alliance Raid are pretty cool, with the level of difficulty that players find refreshing, but there aren't many long-term grinds that are really enticing more casual players to stick around at this juncture. So you got the big raids, you don't got the casual players seeing as much anymore. This is something that happens with MMOs quite a bit. As the content seems to decline. It's also harder for casual players as a game goes along and goes a lot further, because like as so much going in, you sit there and you're like, oh man, there's so much to catch up on. You don't get a lot of new players at that point. And you also are stuck with like players feeling like they fell behind of a lot of their friends. And when they fall behind a lot of their friends on an MMO and in a social game, it's kind of a gone thing. So in fact, there's so little to do right now. Final Fantasy XIV is experiencing quite a large drop in active players. A Japanese blog site called Lucky Bancho that tracks player numbers for Final Fantasy XIV across expansions and patches revealed that Dawn Trail actually lost a significant number of players between patch 7 and patch 7.1, whereas other expansions actually grew in players. According to Lucky Bancho, over 1.4 million players were active at Dawn Trail, while 1.1 were active at patch 7.1's release. In comparison, Shadowbringers and Endwalker had 943,000 and 1.3 million players upon each expansion's launch, which then rose to 1.2 million and 1.7 million upon the release of the patches. It's also claimed by Lucky Bancho that players are dropping rather quickly after patch 7.1, with an active player count going from 1.15 million to 1.03 million. On the current trajectory, Final Fantasy XIV seems poised to drop below 1 million active players for the first time in a good long while, which should be raising alarm bells for Square Enix, considering it's the game that's propping up the entire company at this juncture. Of course, a drop-off in players is always expected after a large expansion, but Dawn Trail's numbers are slightly worrying. It doesn't help that most of the content released after it has been catered towards high-end raiders, with very little more for casual players to spend time on. That's a big deal because the high-end raiders are such a small percentage of a player base at that point. That should change once the Relic Grind, Field Operation, and New Deep Dungeon are eventually released, but as it stands right now, it's not tempting enough for players to stick around. Now, Grummz has another thought about this as to who is taking over the game and who is actually interested in this game right now. He said FF players are dropping off, may dip below 1 million active players. Nobody likes Wuk Lamat except for the diehard Wokies who try to bully anyone who points that out. Now, that's pretty interesting right here, and he's getting attacked for saying so at this point. This dipshit is attributing post-patch inactivity with the woke. There is a 99% chance he's never played in 14, just jumping on the hate woke dildo and writing that who owes him money. Very ridiculous stuff, as Grummz very clearly has played Final Fantasy XIV, very active within the MMO genre. He's kind of the granddaddy of the MMO genre as the World of Warcraft vanilla WoW lead, and it's an interesting thing that we're seeing right here. Also, somebody right here says there's way too many transsexual gooners ERPing in the game. It's fell off. ERP means erotic roleplay, and so what people do in these games, believe it or not, is pretend they're actually the characters and like talk on things. I actually find role-playing servers on these sorts of things fun sometimes, but the problem is people end up like making it like real life, and they start having like these like romances with this stuff, and it gets very, very weird. And of course, a lot of it ends up with a lot of homosexual stuff and transgender stuff, which of course nobody wants to be around that. And of course, this is the thing. That's the group that likes to bully everyone else. They always try to force everybody else to be around it and like be very, very brash and all over the map about it too. It does ruin games when this sort of thing happens. Outside of the Wuk Lamat stuff, I hate the fact they make you play the whole Realm Reborn stuff if you make a new character, which is slow and boring unless you want to play to skip it. So he says he hates it on there. It's not just wokeness. The attached file reflects how the game quality has dropped off. Once upon a time, a crowd scene like this would have been unthinkable. NPCs were unique and interesting, implying a life of their own, but now they're just copy-paste of the same 4 NPCs in rigid rows and expect us not to notice. So this is just somebody being pretty lazy with this, with like exactly the same looks in this sort of crowd scene right here. Which is a lazy design, as you could tell. Did you forget about this scene? This is another one that, like, you could see the copy paste again. So that kind of laziness does not help a game for sure on that level. What are other people saying about this? Never got a chance to play 11 or 14 because I was never big into the MMO aspect. Shame. Not sure what it will take for companies to understand woke is bad for business. I was just thinking about renewing my subscription. Then I remember they decided to try something dumb. Oh, well, save me more money. This surprised me after the way it exploded after people left WoW. Are they higher than Final Fantasy XIV again now, asking about WoW? If you want to stay in business, it's essential you give your customers what they want. They don't want Wuk Lamat, which is a play on the name right there. So interesting stuff right there. One of the major reasons I've stopped playing is this person. The community is insufferable and is a breeding ground for the worst kind of ERPers. So you see there's a lot of this going on as well, and people are not liking that. Though the new block feature that blacks their tune, that is a great addition that has helped keep part of the sanity whenever I choose to play. So it sounds like the player base that's on there is really, really insufferable, and it's been encouraged to be pushed into this weird ERP situation that nobody likes out of games. Nobody's ever liked this out of games, and if that's what's dominant on the servers out there, oh my gosh, that is a fun, unfun, negative player experience if I've ever heard one at this point. Regardless, this is a big deal, and as the gamer says right here, this is the game that's keeping Square Enix afloat. They are got their subscription up here, which is a big deal, and this is with dropping below 1 million players is a big red flag for the company, especially if they drop 27% in between the release and the patch. It's scary stuff. Do you play Final Fantasy XIV? What have you thought about recent expansions? I'd love to hear from you guys. Please leave a comment down below. And if you like Final Fantasy, please check out my books, guys. This is a free deal. 3 free books just for getting on my newsletter. I love connecting with you and staying connected with you. And I talk about new releases and the like over here. I'm pretty prolific, and that's why I don't play MMOs these days, because I'd never get any writing done if I did. Thank you for being here. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.